He came back after 3 days, but it wasn't really my dog. Max had never run away before. He wasn't the kind of dog who chased cars or wandered off. He was always by my side, loyal to a fault. If I went into another room, he'd follow. If I left the house, he'd wait patiently by the door until I returned. So, the night he vanished, it felt like the ground dropped beneath me. It was a stormy night, the kind where the sky looks like it's splitting open. Max hated thunder. He would hide under the table, trembling with every crash. That night, though, he didn't hide. He was acting strange, restless, pacing near the back door. I let him out to relieve himself, thinking he'd come right back in as always, but he didn't. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then an hour. I called his name until my voice was raw. I walked through the rain, checked the nearby woods, even drove up and down the streets with a flashlight. Nothing. No barking, no rustling, no paw prints in the mud. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. The next morning, I printed flyers, asked neighbors, posted online. My phone stayed silent, and every night, I sat on the porch with a bowl of food, calling out into the dark. Then, on the third night, I heard scratching at the front door. I jumped up so fast I knocked over a chair. My heart raced. When I opened the door, there he was. Max. Soaking wet, covered in mud, but standing there like he'd never left. I dropped to my knees and hugged him. He didn't wag his tail. He didn't lick my face. He just stood still, his head tilted slightly, as if unsure of what to do. I chalked it up to exhaustion, maybe trauma. I brought him inside, dried him off, set out his favorite food. He didn't eat. That night, he lay on the floor by the window, watching the rain fall. He didn't curl up like he used to. He lay stretched out unnaturally straight, his eyes wide open. I thought maybe he was just adjusting, but something deep in my stomach felt tight, twisted. The next morning, things felt even stranger. Max didn't respond when I called his name, not even a flick of the ear. I clapped, whistled, said, "Treat." Nothing. Then when I wasn't looking, he'd move, quietly, almost too quietly. I'd turn around and he'd be there, sitting in a new spot, staring at me. His eyes used to be warm and golden, full of life. Now they looked dull. Not just dull, wrong, like there was something else behind them, something watching me. Over the next few days, his behavior grew more disturbing. He started avoiding sunlight, always choosing the darkest corners of the house. Sometimes I'd catch him sitting completely still, facing the wall for hours. No barking, no tail wagging, just total silence. And when I moved, his head would slowly turn, tracking me, not like a pet, but like a predator. One night, I woke up to the sound of scratching. I checked the hallway, but it wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from under the bed. I leaned down, expecting to find Max curled up, but when I lifted the blanket, there were no eyes glowing back. The scratching had stopped, and then, from behind me, I heard breathing. I turned around, and there he was, sitting in the doorway, his mouth slightly open, almost smiling. I didn't sleep after that. The final straw was the vet. I took Max in, explaining he'd been missing, and came back acting strangely. The vet examined him, grew quiet, and asked if I could step outside for a moment. When he returned, his face was pale. He didn't meet my eyes. He said, "I don't know what that is, but it's not your dog." I caught my pet whispering in the dark. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. You know how sometimes, when the house is silent and the shadows stretch long across the walls, your mind fills in the blanks? That's what I wanted to believe. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Something I couldn't explain. Max, my golden retriever, had always been a quiet dog, but loving. He never barked without reason. never made a sound that wasn't genuine. His presence was comforting. But one night, I woke up to a strange noise. A low whisper coming from the living room. It wasn't loud enough to be understood, just a soft, unsettling murmur. My heart pounded as I tried to shake off the fear and told myself it was the wind or the house settling. Curiosity pushed me out of bed. I crept to the living room, the floor cold beneath my feet. There, in the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains, I saw Max sitting by the window. His posture was stiff, almost unnatural. And then I realized the whispering was coming from him. His throat was moving slightly, but instead of the usual panting or occasional bark, it was something else entirely. Something wrong. I froze. My mind raced. Was Max sick? Was he in pain? I reached out to touch him, and he turned slowly to look at me. His eyes, usually warm and inviting, were glazed over and cold. And then I heard it again. Clearer this time. Words. Not quite English, but unmistakably speech. My name. Whispered in a voice that didn't belong to a dog. That night, sleep abandoned me. I sat in the living room, watching Max, trying to understand what I was seeing. He moved oddly, twitching in ways dogs don't normally do. Sometimes, his lips parted, and the whisper came again, soft but insistent. A language I couldn't understand, filled with strange syllables and strange intent. I started filming him on my phone, hoping to catch what I was hearing. Watching the footage later, the whispering was there, clear as day, except the sound was distorted, like it wasn't meant for human ears. On the screen, Max's eyes looked almost black, as if something else was lurking beneath his fur. I took him to the vet, hoping for answers. The vet did some tests, but found nothing physically wrong. She looked at me with concern, but I could see she didn't believe me when I described the whispering. I began to doubt myself too. Was I losing it? Was stress making me imagine things? But the whispering didn't stop. It grew louder in the dead of night, more frequent and more urgent. Max's behavior became stranger. He stopped eating regular food and refused to go outside. He'd sit in corners, staring at nothing, his lips moving as the whisper continued. Sometimes, he'd growl low and threatening at shadows I couldn't see. One night, I woke up to find him standing over my bed, his head tilted as if listening to something behind me. I turned on the light, and for a brief moment, his mouth opened, wide, wider than a dog's should. And I swear I heard a sentence in a voice that wasn't his. The words chilled me to the bone, filled with a hunger and anger that no animal should have. Since then, the house feels different. The air is heavier, colder. Max never leaves my side, but he's not the same dog anymore. That whispering, it's like a dark secret living inside him, and it's trying to speak through him. I don't know what it is, or how it got there. But I fear the longer it stays, the more it will take from the dog I once knew. The pet that used to be my friend is slipping away, replaced by something else, something dark. I catch myself watching him more often, afraid of what I might see. Because when Max whispers in the dark, I don't hear the voice of a dog. I hear something ancient, something waiting. The vet took one look at him and told me to leave immediately. I still remember that moment clearly, how the room felt suddenly colder, how the vet's expression changed from professional calm to something else entirely, something afraid. It all started when Max, my golden retriever, came back after being missing for days. When I found him, I thought I was lucky. He looked tired, dirty, but alive. But the way he acted after coming home wasn't right. He was distant, almost wrong. I didn't know what was happening, so I took him to the vet, hoping for answers. The vet was a kind man I'd trusted for years. When I brought Max in, I explained everything. The disappearance, how he came back but didn't seem like himself. The vet nodded thoughtfully and began his examination. At first, everything seemed normal. The usual checks: temperature, heartbeat, reflexes. But as the vet continued, his hands began to tremble slightly. He asked me to step outside while he reviewed some x-rays and test results. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe he just needed some privacy. But when he came back, his face was pale, almost ashen. "I don't know what to tell you," he said quietly, avoiding my eyes. "Whatever is inside your dog, it's not normal." He handed me the x-rays, and when I looked, I saw things I couldn't explain. The bones didn't line up right. There were too many ribs, extra shapes that shouldn't have been there, and in places where there shouldn't have been anything, there were shadows that looked like something alive. The vet's voice dropped even lower. "I'm telling you this because I think you need to get out of here with him. Now. Don't wait for anything else to happen." He looked genuinely scared. I had never seen him like that before. I wanted to ask questions, to understand more, but the words wouldn't come. I packed up Max and left, the weight of that warning pressing down on me like a stone. On the drive home, I kept looking at Max. He lay quietly in the back seat, his eyes half closed but strangely alert. Sometimes I thought I caught him smiling, a slow, unnatural curl of the lips that no dog should be able to do. When I got home, I locked all the doors and windows. I didn't know what was inside Max, but I didn't want it getting out. Over the next few days, things got worse. Max refused to eat normal food, but he seemed to hunger for something else. Sometimes, I found him in odd places, staring at walls or dark corners, his eyes glowing faintly in the night. I started noticing sounds, scratches on the walls, low growls coming from Max when there was no one else around. And then the vet's warning echoed in my mind. Whatever was inside, Max was changing him, twisting him. I tried to convince myself it was just an illness, something physical. But every night, I felt a presence in the house, something watching, waiting. And Max wasn't just my pet anymore. He was a vessel. Something else was alive inside him. I don't know what that something is, or what it wants, but the vet's warning haunts me every day. I don't know how long I can keep this secret. There's something else moving inside my dog's body. I don't say this lightly because it sounds like something out of a horror movie, but I swear it's true. The Max I knew is gone, replaced by something else, something I can't explain, something that shouldn't be there. It all started after Max disappeared for a couple of days. When he came back, he looked the same on the outside. Same golden fur, same size, same shape. But the way he moved was different. Not just tired or weak, different in a way that made my skin crawl. Normally, Max was a lively dog, always eager to run, jump and play. But after he returned, he was stiff. His legs moved awkwardly, like he was learning how to walk again. Sometimes, I'd watch him, pause mid-step, as if something inside him was struggling to control his own body. At first, I thought he'd been injured or sick. I took him to the vet, but all the tests came back normal. No broken bones, no infections, no illness. Still, something wasn't right. The vet was puzzled, but he didn't see the way Max sometimes twitched, or how his breathing would change when no one was around. I started paying closer attention. Sometimes at night, when the house was quiet, I'd hear strange noises coming from the room where Max slept. Soft thuds, like something moving around beneath his skin. At first, I thought it was his heartbeat or normal dog sounds, but it was different, more like something shifting inside. One night, I woke up to see Max standing at the foot of my bed. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark, but that wasn't the strangest part. His body, it seemed to ripple, like there was something inside him moving independently of his own muscles. I blinked, thinking I was dreaming, but the movement stayed. It was subtle but unmistakable, like something alive, crawling or twisting under his skin, something that didn't belong. I tried to touch him, to reassure myself it was just a muscle spasm or a nerve twitch, but his skin felt cold and rigid, not like a dog's warm, soft fur. Then there were the sounds. Soft scratching noises from within his chest or stomach, like claws tapping on bone or something trying to get out. I stayed up for hours, watching him, but I couldn't tell if it was Max controlling the movements or something else. The more days passed, the more I felt like I was sharing my home with a stranger wearing Max's skin. His personality faded. The friendly, playful dog I loved was replaced by something quiet, watchful, and patient. Too patient. At times, I caught him staring at empty corners of the room, his head tilted like he was listening to voices I couldn't hear. Sometimes he'd growl low and menacing, not at anything visible. Other times, he'd follow me from room to room, but never close enough to touch. It was like he was guarding me, or maybe guarding something inside himself. I'm terrified of what's inside him. Whatever it is, it's alive, and it's not Max. It's like a parasite, a dark presence that's taken root deep beneath his fur, using his body as a prison or a disguise. I don't know how long it's been there, or if it's growing stronger. Sometimes I wonder if it's waiting for the right moment to take full control. I've stopped sleeping in my bedroom because I'm afraid of what might happen when the lights go out. Max follows me everywhere, but now he feels less like a companion and more like a warning. There's something else moving inside my dog's body, and every day it becomes more clear to me that the dog I knew is gone, replaced by something I can't fight or understand. At night, it watches me without blinking. I can't explain how I know, but there's something inside my dog that's awake when I'm trying to sleep. Something that watches, waits, and never blinks. It's not the Max I've known all these years. It started a few nights after Max came back from being missing. The house felt different. Heavier somehow, like the air was thicker. I would lie awake in bed and feel eyes on me, but when I turned on the light, there was only darkness. Max would be lying next to me, but his eyes would be open, staring straight ahead. I began to notice he never blinked at night. During the day, his eyes were normal, warm, soft, full of life. But at night, they changed. They became glassy, unblinking, and cold, like two dark mirrors reflecting something I couldn't see. One night I woke up to find him sitting on the floor beside my bed, completely still, his eyes locked onto mine. It wasn't the loving gaze of a dog. It was empty and distant, like he was looking through me, not at me. I tried to blink back, hoping it was just me imagining things, but those eyes never wavered. I felt a chill crawl up my spine as I realized I was being watched by something inside him. Something that didn't blink because it didn't need to. Something that was always alert, always aware. The days that followed only made things worse. Max's behavior grew stranger. He stopped wagging his tail or coming when I called. Instead, he lurked silently in the corners of rooms, watching shadows that weren't there. His eyes would lock onto empty spaces, never blinking, as if tracking something invisible. I couldn't sleep. Every night I'd lie awake, feeling those unblinking eyes on me, watching my every breath, my every move. Sometimes I'd see his head twitch, as if listening to voices I couldn't hear. Other times I'd catch him growling softly at the darkness. I began to feel like I was being hunted in my own home. The creature inside Max was awake when I was vulnerable, when the world was quiet and the lights were out. It was patient, waiting for the right moment. One night, I stayed up until dawn, unable to shake the feeling of those eyes burning into me. I watched Max as he paced silently, his unblinking gaze following me no matter where I moved. Then, just before sunrise, he stopped and turned his head slowly towards the window. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving outside, too large, too dark to be an animal. It flickered in the corner of my vision, and Max's eyes grew wider, still unblinking, but now filled with something I can only describe as fear. I realized then that whatever was inside him was connected to that shadow, watching me through Max's body, waiting for its chance to come inside completely. I'm scared to close my eyes now, because at night, it watches me without blinking, and I'm not sure how long I can keep living with those eyes on me, watching and waiting, never blinking, never sleeping. It's not my pet anymore. I can feel it deep inside. When Max disappeared for those 3 days, something changed in him. When he came back, I thought it was just exhaustion or fear. But it wasn't. Something else had taken root inside him, something dark. At first, it was small things, little differences in how he moved or looked at me. But the more I watched, the more I realized the dog I knew was gone. His eyes didn't have the same warmth. His tail stopped wagging. His bark lost its joy. It was like a shell, an empty vessel carrying something else. I started to notice things I couldn't explain. When I called his name, sometimes he wouldn't respond, but I'd feel like someone, or something, was listening. I could hear faint whispers, almost like voices in my mind, coming when Max was near. I'd see shadows flicker where there shouldn't be any. The air would grow colder, heavier. One night, I woke up to find Max standing at the edge of my bed, staring at me with those hollow eyes. I tried to reach out, but he stepped back, his movements jerky and unnatural. His body twitched as if fighting to keep control. I realized then that whatever was inside him was struggling to stay hidden. I did everything I could think of, talked to vets, animal experts, even spiritual advisors. No one could tell me what was wrong. They all said Max was physically healthy, but mentally distant, almost possessed. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't deny the truth any longer. Sometimes I would hear Max growling at empty spaces or see him shaking as if something inside him was restless. His normal behaviors disappeared, replaced by strange habits, licking invisible spots, scratching at the air, growling low and menacing. I could see the fear in his eyes when the thing inside him surfaced. The hardest part was watching him change. The dog I loved was trapped inside, struggling for control. Sometimes I thought I saw him in brief flashes, soft whines, a fleeting wag of the tail, a gentle nuzzle, but those moments were rare and quickly swallowed by the darkness growing inside him. I'm terrified of what's happening. I don't know what this thing is, how it got there, or what it wants. All I know is that Max isn't my pet anymore. He's a host, and the longer it stays, the less of Max there is left. Every night, I pray for a way to save him, but deep down, I fear it might already be too late.